One. Lewis Pope, we are live. How's it going? How's it going, sir?
Going great. The life of IT, though, unexpected reboots and firmware updates.
Yes, no worries. It happens. We had some folks comment here. Dan Hawley, things happen. I was a bit late as well. So anyway, Lewis, who are you, and what are we talking about today? What is this thing all about?
I'm Lewis Pope. I'm one of the head nerds from Enable Education Advocacy, but mainly my focus is on security. So best practices, implementation of security controls, compliance, anything from, wow, we need to work on figuring out how we can make sure that our junior technicians didn't set up a bunch of file shares and drive mapping with full admin credentials, all the way up to, CMMC compliance, pursuing something like alignment with Cyber Essentials, Essential 8 in Australia, whatever it may be. If it's underneath the security umbrella, I've probably touched on it in some way, shape, or form in my position. And today we're going to be here talking about what's happened over the last month. So anything that's worthwhile knowing about around either a security incident, cyber attacks, legislation, or anything else really that's kind of noteworthy or worth talking about for anybody that's in IT as a technician, help desk, MSP owner, operator. Hopefully something of value will be talked about today for everybody.
All right, right on. Sounds good. And my name is Stetson, founder of This is an IT Support Group. If you hear, you probably got a newsletter invite from This is an IT Support Group.com, or maybe you're in our Facebook group. But Lewis, we're going to get right into it. We do these about once a month. You send me some news and we kind of talk about it. I usually have dumb questions, and you usually explain things pretty well. So that said, let me see. Maybe we can do a little screen share here today. See if I have technical difficulties of my own. Share screen, share, window. All right, first thing you sent me was Windows 10 is going end of support later this year. But Microsoft also recently said they would be changing plans around providing support for M365 apps. What are these changes, and how should this affect strategy and planning for IT professionals and orgs?
Also, Microsoft that has had the end of support date for Windows 10 kind of, posted and in stone for a while now. So it shouldn't be a surprise for anybody that, Windows 10 is hitting end of support this year, October the 12th or October 14th. The change they have recently made, though, is they have kind of walked back a little bit and said, but we are going to continue to provide security updates for M365 apps. And they're going to continue to provide those security updates for M365 apps until for 3 years, I believe it's in 2028, whenever the extended security update program ends for Windows 10. For anybody that's not familiar with the extended security updates program from Microsoft, whenever Microsoft end of supports an OS, they have an opportunity for you to buy additional licensing so that you continue to receive security updates for that OS. But the challenge is always that's an additional piece of overhead. That's an additional piece of management. That's an additional license consumption that you now have to spend money to purchase licenses to get into the ESU program, to get the devices enrolled. And then you have to manage that on top of your regular patching that you may be that you're doing. So it is, you have to have that internal evaluation and conversation of, is it worth it? Is the amount of effort and time that we're going to have to spend performing due diligence, due care, making sure that this ESU gets implemented correctly and all devices are enrolled and they are pulling the up-to-date versions of security updates that they need? Or is it just easier for us to make the jump to Windows 11?
All right. Lots of dates for folks to be aware of there. I popped a link to this in the comments. If I'm correct, I think Windows 10 came out about July 2015.
Yeah, it's been a while it's had a good run. It's always the thing of, just like with Windows XP, Windows 7, there's always it's still working.
Sure.
And from a business perspective, if it's working, why touch it? So anybody that's on the budget side, the planning side, if you're an MSP and you have to have conversations with your clients, I always kind of take this as the look. Microsoft's the 800-pound gorilla in the room with armed guards. They're telling us that they are no longer going to guard that Windows OS for us. They're going to stop looking at it. They're going to stop taking care of it. If there's any problems and there's a security update, nope, you got to be behind this special gate over here to receive those. And I kind of take the approach there of, you're asking me if a business makes that decision to say, no, we're going to keep using Windows 10. It's like, okay, you want me to take over the responsibilities that the giant megacorp has abandoned. And that's kind of not saying that it's a bad business decision, but from the security, the implementation, the operation side of things, it's a challenge. And you have to realize that if you're making the business decision, what the technical implementation challenges are going to be, what the operation challenges are going to be, and what that actually does to your risk exposure. Because it is, statistically, have fun figuring out what the numbers actually are. But statistically, you are going to be in a better chance for something to go wrong whenever you have those unsupported OSs out there. For
sure. So mark your calendars, as Microsoft says, I think beginning of this article here, Windows 10 is going end of support. Is that the word? It's not end of life, right? End of support with extended security updates. We've plopped a link in the comments, and the director says hello from the UK. If you are joining us, drop a comment. Maybe we'll show it. Maybe we'll shout about it, or
and you'll definitely want to go ahead and have this on the calendar for October 14th. As you know, we need to have a decision made by this point in time. This isn't a wait a week and do it. This is a it's not a wait a week, wait a month. It is no, we should have already been planning for this.
For sure. Hopefully before today. But if not, this is your warning. All right. Let's roll on to the next one. Lewis, you sent me this link. I don't know. It looks kind of sketchy. Description is EU expands European cybersecurity certification framework to include managed security providers. What is this, and is there anything that should be a concern for MSPs or those in other regions?
Yep. So this is kind of there is the NIS2 directive and the NIS original, which is influenced this. So NIS is a European measure, but the UK pre-Brexit followed NIS. Well, NIS2 came along, made the original NIS better, and then, the UK needed to bring themselves up into alignment with NIS2 to kind of match it. So that has meant in the UK now, they have proposed around this bill that the scope of it should be expanded. And the expansion of that means that now MSPs are in purview. So there has been we don't have to worry about this because we're not taking care of essentials or critical infrastructure or anything else. So that makes it we can't ignore it anymore for MSPs. There was kind of a lingering thought for a lot of people that I just support small businesses. I support SMBs. I don't have to worry about this. This kind of pulls it back and says, yeah, you know what? No, you are going to have to start worrying about this. This needs to be a concern for you, because everything at the moment is kind of a voluntary, but it's probably not going to stay voluntary for a lot of things. Worldwide legislation around MSPs is kind of increasing there's bills, proposals, work being done. So MSPs, rightfully so, have been seen as, linchpins. They are seen as things that if you pull on them, things will fall apart quickly. So due care, due diligence will have to be exercised at this point, because you can't get by with we're just doing good enough. It's like, no, there's a prescribed set of things and capabilities that you need to be able to do as an MSP. And if you can't do these things, then, well, you have to, in some cases, it's a decision of, well, okay, that's fine. We can back down our services. We can, walk away from security and go back closer towards business consultancy and operations improvements versus security. But, you're leaving money on the table just to get away from the security part of it, so you can try and escape out of the purview of what these legislations are starting to propose.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. While you were chatting here in the background, I just kind of popped this into ChatGPT, asked for a summary, as well as pulled up some other sources. This article from UpGuard, exploring the EU cybersecurity certification framework. I think that's the same thing we're talking about here.
So there's the EU cybersecurity, and then there's the UK cybersecurity certification. So, but it's a big giant thing of, a lot of things are happening in the UK and the EU. They've got different names, but they look a lot the same.
Okay, cool. So TLDR, who needs to pay attention to this? Is it MSPs in the UK?
So it's going to be in the EU. So this one specifically is for the EU. So if you are an MSP in the EU, or you are offering services to a company that is in the EU, this now pretty much is a guarantee that this applies to you, and it is now a headache you must confront.
Nice. There's a lot here. Is there anything for people that are dumb like me and don't want to scroll through this?
Just none of what they are asking for is new.
Got it.
If you've always been doing what you should have been doing, and budget concerns and business decisions hasn't hampered the effort of doing things properly in the first place, then there's not a lot of new stuff in here for you to do as an IT professional or as an MSP. But if you've never done, if you don't have a risk management policy, if you don't have a risk register, if you don't do threat modeling, if you have never done tabletop exercises, if you have never, if you don't have written documentation for things, this should be your wake-up call for the expectations for what an MSP does is going to be changed by this.
Got it. Okay. We've plopped a link to this as well in the chat here, although I'm sure you can Google and find it. So if you are a MSP in the EU or serve clients in the EU and you're an MSP, this might be something to stay aware of. Next link you sent to me, Lewis, was about N-able. N-able released a Adlumin State of the SOC report. And I have a copy. Not sure if we're allowed to share that, but I'm going to. We'll drop a link as well. This is available at that link below. On this topic, I guess firstly, what is a State of the SOC report, and then what relevant data came out of this thing?
Yeah, so there's always the threat research reports that come out, or threat trend reports. That's not exactly what this is. This is more about operations of the SOC, not the threats they're finding, but their capabilities, operational efficiencies, how things are, honestly, how things are changing for SOCs. One of the things that came out of this is we took a look at just 2 months of data for the end, I believe is the from December to like February. So all of the numbers in here are based off of just basically 2 months worth of us gathering data and analyzing. One of the things that came out of it for me that's like important I want everybody to kind of internalize and walk away with was 47% of all of the events, 47% of the signals that indicated something that needed to be investigated, or an actual threat event that needed to be triaged and remediated, 47% of those came from cloud sources. 53% of them came from endpoints, or what is it, 44, 47?
Oh,
there we go.
pretty
44
close.
and
44 to 56.
56. There we go. So that's just showing you that if you are ignoring the cloud, if your security practices stop at endpoint security, sure, we got a firewall set up on the network, and the endpoints have, they're patched. They've got an endpoint security solution, an EDR, whatever. We've got a SOC monitoring the endpoints. You're still missing almost half of all of your opportunities to detect and stop threat actors before they proceed further into your environments, because those 44% might have been indicators of, yes, they're going further into your cloud infrastructure. They're getting more access into your M365 tenancy. But that is also a pivot point for them down into local, because if they can compromise a M365 user, that's Entra ID, and you have Entra ID for your AD, and you're not running local. Well, what does that provide as a path for a threat actor? And you had all of the opportunities to potentially find them and stop them before they got to the endpoint, but only if you were paying attention to it in the first place. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is just understanding what you are missing if you have not made any efforts, or you haven't made any steps around monitoring things like the identity plane, whether it's Google Workgroups, Entra ID, Okta, whatever it may be, anything that's an identity part of the identity management plane. If you're not managing it, if you're not monitoring it for events, if you're not monitoring for unusual logins, you're just missing so many opportunities to stop a threat actor at step 1 or 2, rather than stopping them down the line at step 20.
Got it. Full coverage, very important. Yeah, it looks like lots of good info in this State of the SOC report, about 18 or 20-ish pages there. Of course, kind of a joint thing, I guess, between Adlumin and N-able, or only N-able, now that, of course, the acquisition went through. But definitely recommend that, and we have a link in the comments there if folks want to grab that themselves.
Yeah, and there was a lot of really good stuff in there about great, patting ourselves on the back for great mean times here. So from, being able to detection, to triage, investigation, remediation, locking devices down. We got really good numbers out of it. And just the sheer number of, again, remember, this is only 2 months, and we disabled almost 6,000 accounts through SOAR automations.
That's a lot.
Just 2 months. And then there's the AI items in here. And for the AI items that are in here that are discussing about, efficiency improvements and capabilities, and how we're able to, shift some labor for our SOC analyst away from, the work that an AI can handle for them, either an agentic AI or an LLM that's helping them process information that's coming down through threat intelligence feeds. But I think it also honestly, it shows the gap getting wider for anybody that wants to build their own SOC. Because it used to be that it was always, okay, cool, you're going to start a SOC. It's going to take you 2 years. You're going to need to hire about 12 individuals so you can get 24/7 staff rotations at a minimum. And it's going to cost you about $2 million. But now you don't just need the security analyst with the requisite skills and experience. You also now have to toss in 1 or 2 people that can deal with secure AI tooling for you. And that's another specialization, another premium that's going to be demanded for that skill set. And it's going to just make it that bigger of a gap between starting and having an operational SOC that can scale and maintain profitable margins. If you're doing it internally and you have the budget for it, you can just consume some AI tools out from vendors. But if you're trying to run a SOC, build a SOC operation, it's going to be part of a managed services play, you're still going to need to start bringing in AI tooling, but to be able to scale and have maximum profitability, you can't just take what a vendor is giving you. You're going to need somebody who can start creating your own tooling internally.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, the landscape is definitely changing, as you mentioned, as things get cheaper and so this AI tooling comes out. Again, we have a link to this report, the State of the SOC for 2025 with N-able and Adlumin. Next thing you sent me, Lewis, let me see if I can pop this up here. Back to kind of the UK. This is the UK Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill, which is pending. Expands the scope of what organizations can be brought under its purview. What does that mean for SMB and MSPs in the UK?
Right. So this is another part of that, the regulatory is coming, the sword of Damocles is hanging over everybody's head on this. You're not going to avoid it. It's slowly creeping forward. So this was part of that NIS2 alignment that the UK needs to do so that they're, can compete with the EU by saying, yes, we're taking this seriously. Our businesses are taking it seriously. Here's our program and our implementation. But what happened, I think it was 3 months ago, and I just picked up on it. In discussions about this bill, and there was some additional language being discussed about we're going to expand this. It's not only going to be the essentials or the data service providers that are subject to these regulations. It's now going to be MSPs that are being brought in and being part of it as well. So it's back to you need, as an MSP, to make sure you're keeping an eye on this if you have operations in the UK. There's already kind of the general push for more MSPs to be certified in the UK's incident responder program. They have an approved, validated incident response program in the UK that you can register with as a MSP or as any business that's going to provide those types of incident response services. That's getting pushed more now. This is just another item that's going to be pushing MSPs more on your house has to be in order. You have to start practicing, best practices. You need to be, following frameworks. You need to be putting in appropriate security controls for everything. For a long time, it's always been an MSP could go in and say, we're doing what we know to do best. And we're just going to do what we know to do best. And that was kind of, for a long time, that was it. Businesses just took an MSP's word that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. There is going to be more and more third-party attestation that's going to be required by businesses as this gains speed, as this becomes normal. More and more contracts, and this is already happening with current contracts, even more and more contracts are going to start saying, no, I need you to have, I need to have you need to be ISO 27001. You need to be, certified with this body. You need to be accredited with this body for us to have a contract with you. In the US, we're seeing that as the CMMC stuff. In the UK, that's going to be starting more and more out of this. In the EU, the NIS2 stuff. So it's just going to be more and more of that. An MSP is not going to be able to operate as an unregulated industry for much longer.
Yeah, there's certainly lots of regulation coming down. As we've seen this session and prior sessions with you, Lewis, talking about CMMC and all these different acronyms and words. It's quite a lot for folks to keep up with.
It is. And you have to kind of, pick and choose your battles to try and, keep up with what's pertinent for you. But just realize that they influence each other. The UK is doing this because of the NIS2 changes that were done in the EU. The US, we're making, in the US, our individual states are starting to explore more regulation for MSPs. Louisiana, you have to register with the state. In, I believe it's North Carolina and Pennsylvania. I might be wrong on Pennsylvania. If you're an MSP and you provide services to a municipality or a township or to any sub of the state entity, however they're defining it in that state, if something happens, they get hit with ransomware, you can't do anything about that. You don't have a say on the negotiations if something goes wrong. It's like, okay, guess what? The only way we recover from this is paying the ransom. That's out of the business. That's out of your hands as the MSP. That's out of that public entity's hands. That's up to, it has to be declared a state, an emergency by the governor in certain cases. So your relationships with your clients as an MSP are not going to be as insulated as they have been in the past.
Yeah, okay. We've got a link to this one as well. Let's move on. The compliance is putting me to sleep just a little bit, but very important. Very important. Lewis, the next thing you sent me is something called Operation Endgame. Operation-endgame.com. I have no idea what this is. I see a timer, 15 hours, something about EU most wanted. What did you send me the virus link? What is this thing?
So Operation Endgame is a multi-nation, multi-org project, law enforcement effort, but they have whoever is on their marketing team is definitely a millennial or younger.
Oh yeah, we got the Studio Ghibli meme here.
Yeah. They are very, very adept and good at writing current social media trends on their announcements and how they communicate what they do. But what they do is they have the Operation Endgame site, and they will throw up these timers for release statements. And they will make a big to-do about it. Well, they will release, the results of a operation of some type of cyber threat campaign where they have gone in and either made arrest, brought down infrastructure. The one they announced earlier today, I believe, was for one where they took down about, 1,200 or 2,000 domains associated with a campaign.
Okay. Who are these people? Are these actual ransomware builders?
Oh yeah, these are botnet operators, ransomware or code writers. These are.
Oh, they look so friendly. Like, I think I'd get beers with this guy. I think I know him.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Or they're or they're in betweens, or they're mules, or they are. Whatever it is, these are people that have been, they have tagged them as, guess what? You now have warrants. We want you.
So Operation Endgame seeks to take these people down. Is that?
Yeah. So this will be, these are all joint operations between like the US, the UK, Europol, all other kinds of organizations. Law enforcement agencies that are running, multi-year campaigns to track and disrupt and make arrests on different types of cybercrime operations.
Okay. So how do we, is this something people get involved with? Is this like
so this is one of those things. If you look at this list of right here, these were all of the, of the cooperation with this effort. And if you scroll down to the partners, you'll see that, they're listing out like Zscaler, Microsoft, ESET. So this is part of what they're doing here, is they're also trying to engender into the public more of a, you can participate in this. If you are an MSP, if you are an IT professional, we want you to report things. We want you to engage with us and let us know through the appropriate channels whenever you are being affected by these things.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, and lots of good news here too, or
Yes,
ransomware
almost.
suspects being
Yeah,
arrested.
so almost
I
everything
can't read
they'll
this one.
announce will be a, and there are definitely trends in this, but I mean, most of it is, every once in a while you'll see a UK or US individual or Canadian individual show up, but a lot of the time it's Eastern Bloc countries.
Why is that?
Just the supports and the we will look the other way that has happened from a lot of those countries over the years. The
Gotcha.
whole, cause damage elsewhere, not here, and we'll leave you alone.
I see.
And
Interesting.
they just, the powers that be, the law enforcement agencies, they know and understand where these things are happening. It's all about the long game, making sure that once they go after people and they disrupt infrastructure and operations, that they don't just pop up again. Luma Stealer, that was one that was disrupted just a few days ago. Earlier this week, they made the announcement. That was something where they're already seeing one of the main people involved with it already trying to reconstitute and rebuild the infrastructure after it was seized.
Yeah, you sent me a link on this one. I want to make sure we cover this Luma Stealer thing, or almost spelled Llama. Not sure. Luma or Llama.
Luma.
Luma. What is this?
So Luma Stealer is, I think of it kind of like one of the backbone pieces of malware. This is something that is used by hundreds of different threat actor operations and organizations. It is really a core component of info stealing campaigns. And info stealing campaigns are ones that are also usually associated with part of or the core focus of access brokerage, selling access simply to credentials or to compromised systems. This is one of those things of this is how you wind up in a situation where a user gets their credentials compromised, gets their MFA tokens compromised, and then a threat actor can use those. Like the saying goes right now, hackers don't hack, hackers log in. Well, that's true, but somebody does an initial hack and then resells those credentials or those tokens or that ability to log in. And that's a lot of what Luma Stealer was about. It was about setting up the infrastructure and the tools that facilitated threat actors capturing those credentials in the first place.
I see. And as we read through this was I think they called it ransomware as a service or malware as a service, something that was offered on.
Yeah, it's another one of those as a service platforms. You can come in and purchase access and bam, there you go. You can have access to a fully kitted out platform, and it's no harder to operate than your, take your pick of your favorite SaaS or RMM tool.
Sure. Lewis, you're selling it a little too well here.
Well, it is one of those things. It is the legitimate challenge that it's a legitimate driver of why we have some of the issues that we do have. It is
ease of access.
Yeah, it's ease of access. The tools have been commoditized. It's faster and easier to start a successful operation that generates you revenue with something like this than it is for you to go and build a legitimate IT consultancy or MSP. Now, it's different type of heat's going to be breathing down your neck long term.
Yeah, infinite downside. Would not recommend.
Yeah, there's definitely the downside to it, but just the simple fact of if your morals are loose enough or the pressures don't exist that make you feel like you'll ever be caught, that's what a lot of these individuals are thinking. And that's good enough for them to start, their work, which, I mean, for them, it is work. It is a business. And they've just made that calculation of, I'd rather make the $40,000, $120,000 a month off of this than do something else.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Not good. I popped a link to this as well into the comments here. I think that's all we've got for now, Lewis. Super appreciate your time. Any closing comments or thoughts or anything else?
So just if you are interested in like the SOC operations, the changes in SOC, if some of the things we talked about today are things that you're like, okay, I can't do that. I don't have that capability. I don't have the personnel. I don't have the tool set. That's a lot of what N-able is starting to be able to help with and offer out. So if those are challenges for you and you're looking for some solutions for these things, reach out to us at N-able. And we'll be able to get somebody in contact with you, get you in contact with somebody, so you'll start being able to go through the review process of what we can offer for you in the portfolio, because you need it. The days are gone by where you can be a clever individual that can sit there and create your own tooling while at the same time supporting the SMB or the business that you're the IT professional for. You need the tools. You can't build a house without a hammer, but at the same time, you're not going to go build the foundry that's going to cast the hammer. You've got to pick your place in that production line of where you're going to operate at. And building the tools is not where most of us need to be nowadays. Most of us need to be on the side of, on the other side of the tooling, making sure that we're efficiently using it and consuming the capabilities from wherever they may come from in order to get to the security results that we want to have.
For sure. Well put. Lewis, thank you so much for dropping by. I always enjoy these sessions and learning about all the scary things happening in cybersecurity. I did drop, obviously, your email down here. If folks want to reach out to you, I'm sure you can get them in the right direction for their IT and MSP goals or questions, etc. We'll do this again. Hope y'all enjoyed it. See ya.
Been a
Bye.
pleasure.